We've arrived at Conto campsite, and as you can see we've swapped trailers. Decided in the end that the small trailer wasn't really going to do the job, so we've switched to the coaster trailer and we're now about to get the campsite set up. Nice little spot. We're in a loop called Whistler's, and this is site number 3. Well, here we are, finally set up. We've got pretty well everything in place now. Cooking area at the front, beds inside, little folding cupboard. Give you a look at everything in detail as we start to use it. It's taken us a little while to get set up because we weren't as organised as we hoped we'd be, but we're finally there. And this is the trailer in chuck wagon mode. Basically, if we're not travelling anywhere, we can put the shelves out, get the food out spread around. It all locks up nicely, fairly safe. We've got a lock on the front, so not terribly easy to just drive off with when we go exploring in the car. So with a bit of luck everything remains safe. Just a couple of basic camp chairs. These are just Kmart specials. Actually not bad, quite comfortable for that style of chair. One little table to put the drinks on in the middle, and the munchies of course, afternoon happy hour. And just looking outside the tent, it's a little bit on the cramped side, it's really only for sleeping. Got a queen sized air bed over there, which takes up a lot of the room. Stretcher bed on this side, and the little folding cupboard around the corner there, so pretty well full of stuff. Outside, it's our kitchen. Fairly basic setup. One big pot, one crab pot, in the hope that we ever catch crabs. We're not after crabs on this trip. Small saucepan, fry pan, little barbecuing plate, and a halfway decent camp cooker there. A bit better than the old ones used to be. They used to call them food burners. Now they are a little bit closer to being cookers. And over this side is the shower tent we're using on this trip. I do have another one with me just in case. I do not like these Austrail tents. They are much too weak. the bars in them are floppy and they don't hold up well in the wind. So just in case this thing keeps folding itself up, which it's already done once, we've got another model that has much stronger bars in it, but we'll give this one a go, just see what it's like. If by the end of the trip it's no good, we'll get rid of it. And what happens with that, the trailer is our power source for the pump, and we run a hose across from there to the shower tent, and we'll have a look at that a little bit later on when we're actually taking a shower. It looks like we're going to want some warm water today. It's a little bit cooler than we thought, but that's fine, not a problem. It's better to be cool when you're camping than hot. Conto has been modified since we were here. We've got to have a bit of a better look around, see what the changes are. This is Whistler's. Nice little spot at the end here. Currently fires are permitted between 6 PM and 10 AM in the fire pits. So if we decide to have a fire, which is pretty unlikely, we may just spend an evening out enjoying that. This site's good. There's only 3 campsites here. There's one campsite right next door to us, just here. There's another one just over that hill. So 3 sites here share that one toilet. It's a pretty good little spot because when you get into the main area, all the campsites are sharing the toilet, so you can have queues in the morning. Can be a bit of a problem if you're dying to go. So these little in sites, 1, 2 and 3 on Whistler's, are pretty good. And we've got another couple of pieces of gear here that we're trying out on this trip. The first one here is actually from Wiltshire, and I've got to say at the outset, it looks like an absolute piece of garbage. Again, it was a pickup from an op shop. It looks like it's never been used. Wouldn't surprise me a great deal, simply because it is extremely flimsy. It's got a little plate inside it, lifts out. It's all very wobbly stuff. How that's going to stand up to heat from a fire, I'm not sure. But these are meant to be swing away doors. This one has already lost the pin that holds it in. I haven't made any attempt at all to secure those pins so they don't fall out. It folds up, could be convenient, but I've got to say, something that actually loses parts before it's even been used isn't going to be something I'm going to be too happy to recommend. Without those pins, and of course it doesn't sit very well in the box. Simple enough to use. Pop the plate in, put your charcoal or your heat beads or whatever in that. Pop your axe on top. So relatively easy to use and light. It's not heavy, which with fire stuff you usually think heavy is going to be better than light, but we'll see how it stands up once we've lit a few fires inside this thing and see what this coating is like. My first thought about this thing is it's going to rust. The coating will fall off and it'll rust. Second item is a little fish smoker here. This is a lot better. Again, something we picked up from an op shop. Brand new again. It's a little hot fish smoker. It's meant for putting on top of a barbecue, but no reason, if this thing works, we can't pop that straight on top of there. It's useful in that it all folds flat. We do have some sort of, Mako is the brand name on that thing. We've had a fish smoker for years which we've used, but unlike this one, it doesn't fold flat. This one's pretty simple to pull apart. Pull the trays out. And then just slide the sides off. And then it basically falls apart. Actually, when it's together, it's pretty solid. but as you can see, it comes apart easily, packs flat. Now that's something we're going to make use of. Okay, what we've got here is actually a lighter for heat beads. Generally it's meant to be used on a barbecue to get your heat beads going quickly, but we picked it up for a couple of dollars in an op shop, and I immediately saw the potential for using it as a quick kettle boiler. That's what we're hoping. Over here we've got the kettle. Now, although the top of these things is actually sloped like that, the kettle does sit on that perfectly, and it's very secure. It's not going to fall off there. You won't be able to use it for ordinary cooking because anything you put on there, the oil or whatever, is going to go off to one side. But for a kettle, this looks like a pretty useful little gizmo. What we've got here is some fire lighters and some charcoal, and we might give that a go later on just to see if it's going to work as intended. If not, we're not that much worse off. We got it for, as I say, a couple of dollars from an op shop, so not much money wasted if it doesn't work. Alright, we're just about to light up the cooker, but before we do that, we start by using the funnel. That's this beast here. They're used for getting your heat beads going. We tried it out for the first time last night, and I was actually surprised that it worked pretty well. We've got redhead firelighters down here. With these you've got to leave them for at least the full 30 minutes because they are rather chemically smelling, but they did seem to work pretty well yesterday, so we'll give it a go again today, see how they go. Put those on after.
Can try the other one?
Yeah, I'll try both. Yeah, the idea with these things is to leave them for 30 minutes. They are supposed to get a powdery grey colour on the outside when they're ready. Then we empty them into the cooker, which is here, and then you can cook on it for quite a long time. Unfortunately, the redhead firelighters do pong a bit, so not a great thing to have your tent, as ours is, exactly downwind of it. If at all possible, to put your tent somewhere else. Here we are about 30 minutes later. You can see the funnel works pretty well. It gets those heat beads really hot, gets them all glowing nicely. Now it's about time to pop those up into the cooker.
I think tonight is going to be just as cold.
Yes, I do too. That's alright, it was downwind of it. And there she is. Leave it for a few more minutes just to get any more smell out of those, and they're perfectly ready to cook on. You don't need to carry along heaps of wood with you. Perfectly good cooking fire, and it will cook a lot of stuff. That will last for several hours now. Seems like a pretty easy way to do campfire cooking without all the hassles of collecting campfire wood. And here we are, all ready to cook. Get those snaggers on.
Which one are you starting with?
These ones, you might as well cook all of them, even if we don't eat all of them. Yeah, even if you don't eat them all. You'll need 4 to eat, and the other 2 will be... Put those on the ends. Okay. The heat in the centre of the cooking area there is pretty high. So as you can see, I've moved the sausages out to the outside. A little bit less heat in there, although there's quite a phenomenal amount of heat comes off these heat beads. For the sake of the video, we use more than is necessary just to make it look good. You probably need a dozen heat beads to cook something like this, and they would certainly cook a lot more than just 6 sausages. So fairly economical, a good thing to carry in your car. The verdict is still pending on this cooker. We won't really know much about that until we've been using it for a while, so no verdict yet on that one, but it does do the job. It certainly makes it easy to cook something. Very lightweight. It does worry me that it will eventually corrode and fall to bits, but we'll just see how we go over the next few trips. And here we are with the finished result. Making up some nice simple camp food.
All black.
Well cooked. Make sure they're well done. No onions this time, unfortunately. Maybe next time. Hot dog and a bit of Margaret River Red. Not bad for an end of a camping day. Just about to set the shower up for the first time. This is actually the first time we're going to use it in this configuration since I modified the pump in a box. So we'll just give this a go, see how everything works, make sure we're right before we actually need a shower. Good idea to test everything before you really need it. See if we need to make any quick modifications to it. The valve on here is closed, the water is up to the head. Need to first test, apart from the one we did in the backyard. Okay, everything seems to be working. All we need now is a bit of warm water. We make a lot of use of pop-up shower tents when we're out camping. There are some brands like this one to avoid. Unfortunately, this one is too flimsy. The metal hoops that hold it up are much too weak, and it tends to collapse in any kind of wind. As you can see with this one, we've hooked it up over a tree with some hockey straps just to stop it falling over. But apart from that, there's some other things to look for when you're buying one of these pop-up shower tents. We'll just go over a couple of them now. I don't like the style where you cannot remove the top. If you can remove the top, it's helpful in hanging your clothes or your towel over. You don't have to have anything else around the tent when you're having a shower. The other problem with this particular one is the fly mesh at the top might be great when the weather is nice and warm, but trust me, when it's pretty cold and the wind is howling in through that and you're trying to have a shower, not a very pleasant experience. So don't buy these ones that have got the fixed top. Get one with a removable top and a top that covers the whole tent. One little trick you can do with this particular style, if you don't have anything else to hang your clothes or your towel over, you can just flip down the top of the door like that and hang your clothes or your towel over that. Unfortunately, there's no other way to hang your clothes up. Some tents have an internal piece of string where you can hang things over. This one doesn't. Quite a few things about this tent we don't like. We will never be buying another one of this particular brand. Inside the tent you can see there is a hole for bringing the hose in. Absolutely hopeless, because the minute you put anything up through that hole you're adding weight. When the weight gets added to these flimsy little bars, the tent falls over, so complete waste of time. It does have a pocket on the side, something that should be in all shower tents to put your shampoo and your soap in, but this is very basic and really not suitable. Another item for a shower tent is some kind of floor mat. These are just little rubberized mats you can use. We have used the sort of holy foam camping mats that you can get in camping stores, but this is just as good. Just a little rubberized mat to keep your feet off the sand. Here's a classic example of what these Austrail tents, pop-up tents, do. They just collapse without any warning whatsoever. The most useless pieces of crap I've ever seen. We had one a few years back and we hoped that the metal in them had got a bit stronger since then. Obviously it hasn't. We did a video some time back on our bat light that we got from Bunnings. A little bit of an update on that. Unfortunately it stopped working. Doesn't recharge, doesn't come on. We don't know what's happened to it. We were using it at the start of this trip. It was all performing perfectly, and now nothing. So it's not a year old. We'll be taking it back to Bunnings for a replacement, and we'll see how the replacement goes. Next we come to the little Wild Country cooking stove. 3-burner stove. Although 3-burner stoves are pretty stupid. Good if you've got 3 small saucepans. And what happens when you've got a fry pan? Middle burner completely becomes redundant. You can't fit anything else on there. So most people use a saucepan and a fry pan when they're cooking. So these burners, of course, are just not spaced far enough apart. They never are on this style of stove, so it really shouldn't matter whether you buy a 2-burner or a 3-burner. You end up with 2 burners anyway. Generally it lights first time. It's got an auto ignition, and of course, because I've got the camera on, it took a few goes to get going. Usually it does light first time. Keeps a bit of gas in the pipeline, so always turn your cylinder off first before you turn off the gas control valve. Not much else to say about it. It's got a little splash guard in here. It does perform reasonably well in strong winds, but these cheap cookers are not the best for cooking. They're not that adjustable. A more high-end stove will give you much better control of your flame, but for about $60–70 you can't expect too much these days, I guess. These little tabs at the back are always a bit of a problem to undo or do up. Packs up into a neat package, comes with its own little carry case that protects the outside of it. In general, okay, a good little cheap stove, better than some of the older versions that we've had. The temperature is a bit more adjustable on this one, but they tend to be a little bit more of a food burner than a food cooker. Time to do a bit of a review on our tent. We don't go camping as much these days as we used to, but we've had many tents over the years and we prefer this cabin style. It gives a lot of room, even though it means you've got to have a bit more space to carry the tent. Unfortunately this particular one is not a good design. We've had a few issues with it since we've had it. Before I get to that though, I'll go through the points that are actually good about the tent, and we'll have a closer look at it now. In total there are 5 windows. 2 at the back, 1 on each side, 1 at the front. and then you have a large opening door. That allows for good airflow, and whichever way the breeze is blowing, you can always be guaranteed to get some kind of airflow through the tent. One thing that most tents should have these days is a way to put power lines into the tent without compromising the anti-insect qualities of the tent. This one does have a little Velcro surrounded hole where you can put a power line through. That's a good thing. At the front of the tent, it has a full frame in the annex part. Keeps it nice and solid, stops it from flapping too much in the wind. Tents we've had before have not had a full frame like this, and they can be a bit of a nuisance, especially these front areas in high winds. Inside the tent you have one hook at the top, so you can hang up a light, useful. On the back of the tent a series of pockets, useful little place to put things if you don't have a cupboard. We don't make much use of it because we do have a cupboard. But unfortunately now we get on to some of the bad things about the tent. These windows, there are two types. One is a window that will come up from the bottom. There are zips on the side. I try to get hold of this. But one piece of Velcro here attaches up to here, and zippers that go up the side. Okay, well, you think that's not too bad. You'd be wrong. Exactly the same design on the back. And what happens is if you get a strong wind hitting the back of the tent, those little Velcro tabs are not anywhere near strong enough to hold the top of that. They flap open and the wind and the rain come straight through. Absolute pain in the bum for wet weather. Whoever designed this tent never ever stayed in one in bad weather. A tent that lets water inside is all but useless as far as we're concerned. Then we come to the side windows. Now you'd think they would be quite good. Pegs at the top. Window rolls down, zips down the side, both sides. So you would assume that in wet weather, that's not too bad. Wrong. These parts need to come down about to here somewhere. The wind gets, there's no attachment of any kind here. It is loose. The wind gets in there, and we have had a lot of wet go into the side of that tent. Again, absolutely useless in wet weather. And that's really what makes this tent something we would not recommend. We got caught. We really didn't have a good look at it. We bought it from Ranger Camping when they were closing down their WA stores, and we thought, would be nice to have a tent to use occasionally again. And we got it for half price, which was $300, and to be honest, it's not even worth that. For dry weather, yeah, it's fine, but the minute you get any kind of wet weather and wind, this tent is utterly useless. We certainly wouldn't recommend it for anybody to buy to go camping, because you're pretty well guaranteed on your camping trips to suffer some wet weather at some stage. So despite the fact that it has got some good features, it comes with a good carry case with wheels on it, make it easy to move around. It all packs away quite well. It's lightish for its style, but unfortunately its wet weather capabilities are non-existent. So no, do not buy one of these tents. Quick word here about water tanks. Everybody needs to carry water when they're camping. We've tried a lot of different styles. Our experience has led us to now avoid the blue coloured ones and the white coloured ones. Neither of them are properly UV stabilised, and they go brittle in the sun and break. The best one we found to date are these green ones from Bunnings. They're about $24 if my memory serves me correctly, and they do seem to be well stabilised for use outdoors. So far absolutely no problems with these. We haven't had them over a year yet, but they don't show any of the signs of becoming brittle that the other styles do. We will update you on this from different trips, but we're using these tanks all the time and they spend an awful lot of their time in direct sunlight. So they need to be solid, they need to not crack, and they need to not taste. So far so good, and we'll keep you updated on these. This is our camp kitchen, and we got this as a $35 special from an op shop. Very useful, reasonably lightweight, packs up quite small. It has a couple of styles you can use it with, the tabletop here, or the two bars at the bottom there. They're only just sitting there. They come and sit on top of the rails here. I'll show you that in a minute. And that will then act as a washing basin holder. Two decent sized shelves each side. A rack at the bottom for holding your cooking gear. And of course this is a place to put your cooker. And up the top, an area to hang your utensils, and we hang a rubbish bag up there as well. And this is the mode where you can put the two little bars on and put a washing basin in. The tabletop just folds up. The only thing that worries me about that is it's one of these things with elastic in the middle, and I wonder what happens when the elastic gives up and how you repair that. Elastic always gives up at some stage. A couple of little light holders at the top. Not quite sure why you need two, but never mind. One would normally be enough. But a good lightweight little kitchen, quite strong, and does pretty much what you want. Folds away neatly, doesn't take up too much space. Under the blankets and sleeping bag there is a Coleman queen size airbed. Normally Coleman products are pretty good. This one, I gotta say, is disappointing. It loses air overnight and it goes from a very firm, comfortable bed into a soft, wallowing piece of junk. We haven't been able to find the leak. We've got sheets and everything else on here. DuraSleep it is called. That's the brand name. And very disappointing piece of camping equipment it's turned out to be. I'm finding myself having to get up in the middle of the night and reinflate it. Very irritating thing to have to do. We think it's probably the valve that's leaking. We're trying a number of different things, putting some Vaseline inside it just to see if it'll hold the air better, putting a bit of plumber's tape around it. So far nothing's worked. We'll let you know if we do find a way to stop it leaking. We don't think it's a leak through the actual fabric. It's almost certainly coming out of the valve, because the valve does not look like it's very airtight. But for a Coleman product, yeah, pretty disappointing. Another item that's quite useful to have in camp is some kind of ground sheet. We've got a couple. One over by the tent there, helps to keep the leaves and the sand from getting into the tent itself. Another very large one here, has all sorts of uses. What we're going to use it for tomorrow when we pack up is to roll up sleeping bags, roll up the tent. That just helps to stop all sorts of muck getting onto the tent. If you did it on the ground itself, you're going to get leaves and all that sort of stuff mixed in with the items you're rolling up. So just makes it a nice easy way to pack up.